Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Trump issued the second veto of his presidency Tuesday, blocking a congressional effort to end U.S. support for the Saudi-led war in Yemen, which has killed thousands of civilians and sparked the world's worst humanitarian crisis. The War Powers Resolution was passed by the House earlier this month, following its passage in the Senate last month, with 7 Republicans joining Democrats. It was the first time Congress has invoked the War Powers Act of 1973 to end a U.S. president's unilateral decision to wage war abroad. Congressmember Ro Khanna, who brought the bill before the House, said in a statement, "The Yemen War Powers Resolution was a bipartisan, bicameral effort and supported by some of the president's most trusted Republican allies. This resolution, nonetheless, was a major win. It sends a clear signal to the Saudis that they need to lift their blockade and allow humanitarian assistance into Yemen if they care about their relationship with Congress. It will also caution this and future administrations from going to war without first seeking authorization from Congress," Khanna said. Bernie Sanders, who led the effort to pass the resolution in the Senate, said via Twitter he was disappointed but not surprised by the veto, adding, "The people of Yemen desperately need humanitarian help, not more bombs," Sanders said. Attorney General William Barr issued an order Tuesday that could keep thousands of asylum seekers locked up indefinitely. The order, a reversal of existing policy, would affect asylum seekers who enter the country in between legal ports of entry by barring immigration judges from granting bonds for their release. Asylum seekers who enter the U.S. at official ports of entry are already unable to be released on bond. The order is set to go into effect in 90 days. Omar Jadwat of the ACLU's Immigrants' Rights Project said in a statement, "This is the Trump administration's latest assault on people fleeing persecution and seeking refuge in the United States. Our Constitution does not allow the government to lock up asylum seekers without basic due process. We'll see the administration in court," he said. In more immigration news, the Trump administration's resuming its so-called Remain in Mexico policy after an appeals court stayed a lower court ruling that had blocked the controversial practice. The policy forces asylum seekers to wait in Mexico while their cases make their way through U.S. courts, which legal experts and rights groups say is illegal. Over 1,100 migrants who entered the United States via the southern border have been sent back to Mexico to wait out their court cases since the policy started. Democrats are seeking information from Acting Homeland Security Secretary Kevin McAleenan after reports emerged last week that Trump told McAleenan he would pardon him if he was put in jail for directing border agents to block entry to asylum seekers, which is illegal. Trump reportedly had the exchange with McAleenan during a visit to the border in Calexico, California, when he was the Customs and Border Protection Commissioner, just 2 days before Trump promoted him to fill the post left vacant by ousted DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen. The House Judiciary Committee is also seeking documents related to a March 21st meeting between Trump and Nielsen about reinstating Trump's zero-tolerance family separation policy and shutting down the U.S.-Mexico border. The deadline to respond to the committee's request is April 30th. In London, climate activists from the group Extinction Rebellion continued their campaign Tuesday, blocking major roads and bridges and bringing traffic to a standstill. Demonstrators are demanding the government commit to a zero-carbon economy by 2025. Police arrested over 200 people in London. We'll have more with 2 of the activists who participated in the London protests after headlines. Extinction Rebellion co-founder Claire Farrell and international environmental lawyer Farhana Yamin, who was one of the people arrested. Back in the U.S., Extinction Rebellion activists took aim at the Republican Party protesting in front of the Republican National, the RNC headquarters in Washington, D.C. Capitol Police arrested a reported 8 members of the group as they occupied city streets. Demonstrators called on passers-by to support their actions and take a stand against fossil fuel-funded politicians.
The RNC has been called the biggest criminal enterprise in the history of our species. They are the center of climate denial, so we're out here today as part of the International Extinction Rebellion to let the RNC know that we know what they're doing, We're going to continue to call attention to their denial, to how they're ruining our planet.
More actions across the U.S., the U.K. and other parts of the world are expected in the coming days. Parisians held a vigil Tuesday night as France continues to mourn the burning of the famed Notre Dame Cathedral. The fire destroyed the cathedral's spire and its wooden roof, but rescue efforts succeeded in preserving some of the more than 850-year-old cathedral's most treasured relics, including the crown of thorns and the tunic of St. Louis. French President Emmanuel Macron vowed to rebuild Notre Dame within 5 years as donations for the reconstruction effort reached nearly $1 billion. Paris's prosecutors said the investigation into the cause of the fire, believed to be an accident, will be long and complex. Authorities say they won't know the full extent of the damage to the cathedral until it's cleared as safe for inspectors. In Sudan, ousted President Omar al-Bashir has been moved to a maximum security prison. Al-Bashir was overthrown last week following a months-long popular uprising calling for his resignation. The African Union warned Sudan's Transitional Military Council Tuesday they have 15 days to install a civilian government or face possible removal from the African Union. Protesters have been staging a massive sit-in in the capital, Khartoum, demanding civilian rule. In Egypt, lawmakers approved new constitutional amendments Tuesday that would allow President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to remain in power until 2030. He's currently scheduled to leave the post in 2022 at the end of his second and current term. The amendments will now be put to a referendum. Critics warn the changes will only increase Sisi and the military's authoritarian reach. Sisi's crackdown on dissent has led to the detention of tens of thousands of people since he came into power in 2014. Last year, Human Rights Watch reported around 15,000 civilians, including hundreds of children, have been referred to military prosecutors. In news from Indonesia, early results show President Joko Widodo, known as Jokowi, has been reelected, defeating former Special Forces military commander General Prabowo Subianto by about 10 percentage points. Prabowo is the former son-in-law of Indonesia's longtime dictator Suharto. Investigative journalist Alan Dershowitz recently revealed Prabowo had made plans to stage mass arrests of political opponents and his current allies if he won. Visit democracynow.org to see our recent interview with Alan Dershowitz on the election. In Libya, the humanitarian crisis is growing as fighting continues to escalate around the capital, Tripoli. The UN says more than 18,000 people have been displaced in the past 2 weeks. The UN is attempting to relocate jailed refugees and migrants, but they warn some 3,000 locked-up migrants are now trapped in or around the combat zone. On Tuesday, at least 4 people were killed during heavy shelling on the southern outskirts of Tripoli, according to local reports. Libya's deputy prime minister said Tuesday that renegade General Khalifa Haftar, who is leading the eastern-based Libyan National Army's offensive on Tripoli, is attempting to stage a military coup. We'll have more on this story later in the broadcast. In Israel, a court ruled Tuesday an investigator for Human Rights Watch must leave Israel by May 1st. Omar Shakir is the Israel and Palestine director for Human Rights Watch. The Israeli government revoked his work visa last year under a law that bars entry to foreigners who call for boycotts of Israel or Israeli settlements. In a statement, Human Rights Watch denied Shakir or Human Rights Watch have ever called for boycotts of Israel, adding, "The decision sends the chilling message that those who criticize the involvement of businesses in serious abuses in Israeli settlements risk being barred from Israel and the Israeli-occupied West Bank," unquote. Human Rights Watch says it will appeal the deportation order to the Israeli Supreme Court. Digital freedom advocates are calling for the release of Swedish programmer and data privacy activist Ola Bini, who's been detained in Ecuador since last Thursday. His arrest came hours after WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange was dragged by British police from the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Bini is accused of hacking government computers in Ecuador. Prosecutors in Ecuador said they plan to charge Bini with plotting to blackmail Ecuadorian President Lenin Moreno. Critics say Bini is being targeted because of his close relationship with WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. This is Bini's lawyer, Carlos Saraya.
What Ola Bini does is encrypt information so that, as a matter of fact, hackers, as you like to call them, do not have access to information and cannot steal it. He does exactly the opposite of what he is being accused of.
In Colorado, schools across 20 districts in the Denver area are closed today as authorities hunt for a woman they say is infatuated with the Columbine massacre and traveled to Denver on Monday. 18-year-old Sol Pais reportedly bought a gun and ammunition after arriving in Denver and made threats that the FBI say are credible but not specific. Denver area schools, including Columbine High School, increased security Tuesday after the news broke. The 20th anniversary of the mass shooting at Columbine High, in which 2 students killed 12 fellow students and 1 teacher, is this Saturday. A woman is suing controversial Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz for defamation in relation to an ongoing sexual abuse case involving his client, billionaire sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Virginia Giuffre, who alleges Epstein sexually abused and trafficked her in the early 2000s, starting when she was 16 years old, says Dershowitz participated in the sex trafficking and accuses him of later falsely claiming she fabricated the accusations and that he had never met her. The lawsuit filed in the Southern District of New York Tuesday brings to light an affidavit by Maria Farmer, a former employee of Epstein's, who says she frequently witnessed school-age girls coming to Epstein's New York City mansion and that on a number of occasions Dershowitz would go upstairs with the underage girls. Farmer also revealed she and her sister were also assaulted by Epstein, as well as his alleged madam, Ghislaine Maxwell. She was 26 at the time of the alleged assaults in 1996 and her sister just 15. Dershowitz, who is also a close friend of Epstein's, helped him secure a plea deal after he was arrested in 2006 for sexually abusing dozens of underage girls in Florida. Dershowitz has denied the charges against himself. In New Jersey, Rutgers University faculty and union members are celebrating after reaching a tentative agreement with the school's administration, avoiding what would have been the first strike in Rutgers' 253-year history. Under the new contract, teaching assistants will see a pay raise, gender pay gaps, as well as pay gaps between different campuses will be closed. Non-tenure lecturers will also be granted contracts of up to 7 years. The school's administration also agreed to guarantee a workplace free of sexual and online harassment. The tentative contract will now be voted on by union members. Residents of Papua are mourning the death of West Papuan peace advocate Nellis Tabai, who died Sunday at the age of 55 after a battle with cancer. Tabai was the coordinator of the Papua Peace Network, a Catholic priest who covered human rights stories and military conflict in the region for the Jakarta Post and other outlets. He was credited with helping establish a dialogue between the Indonesian government and West Papuans who've been seeking independence since the 1960s. Tens of thousands have been killed by Indonesian security forces since the 1990s. In 2017, Indonesian President Joko Widodo appointed Tabai as an advisor on Indonesia's relationship with West Papua. Nellis Tabai continued to tirelessly campaign for peace, even as his cancer progressed in recent years. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.